Find the derivative of f of t equals secant cubed of 3t times tangent to the fourth of 3t. So f of t here is the product of two functions. We have the secant cubed of 3t multiplied with the tangent to the fourth of 3t. So we'll make use of the product rule for the derivative, but before we do that, let's rewrite secant cubed of 3t means secant of 3t quantity cubed, and tangent to fourth of 3t means tangent of 3t quantity to the fourth. We'll want to rewrite it that way to remind us the order in which to take the derivative. The derivative, f prime of t, will overall follow a product rule, so the derivative of the first, well, the first is a quantity to the 3 power. We start with the power rule, bring the power down, leave the inside alone, subtract 1 from the power, and then we multiply by the derivative of the inside of that power. Well, inside that power is a secant. Derivative of secant is secant tangent. So we have a secant and a tangent, both of 3t, but the derivative of a trig function, you have to multiply by the derivative of the inside of the trig function. The derivative of 3t is a 3 to complete its chain rule. It's a double chain rule. That's all the derivative of just the first. Then we have this multiplied times the second, which is that tangent of 3t to the fourth power, just second left alone. We have this added to the first left alone, secant of 3t to the third power, times the derivative of the second. Now that one is power rule. We'll bring down the 4. We'll leave the inside alone. We'll subtract 1 from the power. That'll give us a power of 3. And now we multiply by the derivative of the inside of the power. Derivative of tangent is secant squared. We leave its inside alone, but then we have to multiply by the derivative of the inside of that to complete the double chain rule here as well. Okay, so f prime of t is equal to, what I'm going to do now is put the constants together. I have a 3 and I have a 3. Multiply those, put it to the front. That's a 9. I have 2 powers of secant and 1 power of secant. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 powers of secant. I will write it as secant cubed of 3t. I have 1 power of tangent, 4 more powers of tangent. So tangent to the fifth of 3t. And then plus, this other term, I have a 4 and a 3. Put those together, 4 times 3 is a 12. I have 3 powers of secant, 2 more powers of secant, 3 plus 2, 5 powers of secant, so secant to the fifth of 3t. And then I have 3 powers of tangent, so tangent cubed of 3t. We can now start factoring this expression, and that'll be our next few steps. I'll start with factoring from the constants if possible, and we have a 9 and we have a 12. They have a common factor of a 3. We'll start with that. So we'll have 3, and we'll be left with a 3. Secant cubed of 3t, tangent to the fifth of 3t, and then taking a 3 out of the 12, a 4. Secant to the fifth of 3t, tangent cubed of 3t. We can now start factoring out trig functions to powers. I already have the 3 factored out. I'll start with the secant. I have a secant to the power of 3 and a secant to the power of 5. We can only factor out the lower of the 2 powers. That'll be the 3, so a secant to the power of 3 of 3t. Now if we factor out, we're dividing, and dividing means subtracting. And so we've subtracted all 3 of them. 3 minus 3 is 0, and anything to the 0 is a 1, so all that's gone. Here we'll take out 3 of the 5, and we'll be left with 2. There's what we should have left over in there after the factoring. So it will be 3 tangent to the fifth of 3t plus 4 secant squared of 3t and tangent cubed of 3t. So now f prime of t equals, I'll write down the 3, the secant cubed of 3t that we factored, and now we'll factor out a power of tangent. And if we look inside there, we have tangent to the 5th and we have tangent cubed. We can factor out the lower of the two, which is tangent cubed. So we'll factor out the tangent cubed of 3t. And factoring means dividing. And dividing means subtracting exponents. So we're going to subtract 3 away from this 5. That'll leave 2. All 3 of these will be subtracted away. And there's what we should have left over. A 3 tangent squared of 3t and a 4 secant squared of 3t. And there's our derivative f prime of t.